There was bound to be one with how great these UFC cards have been going with no big pullouts, but breaking news, Jorge Masvidal has pulled out of his fight with Leon Edwards for an undisclosed injury. Now, they were supposed to fight on UFC 269, which is on December 11th, which is almost exactly 1 month from today. And the UFC right now, currently, does not know what they're going to do, if they're going to move on to another fight or look to rebook Leon versus Jorge. But it's very unfortunate that Jorge got injured in this one, because this was going to be an excellent fight between two of the top contenders of the welterweight division. I thought Leon was going to win the fight, but you never really know. But the important question is, what happens next, and are they going to go to the guy? You know who the guy is. Khamzat Chimaev has already put his name in the hat. In fact, Khamzat has been asking for a fight every single day since UFC 267. That is according to Brett Okamoto. The Khamzat has been continuously asking for a fight, and maybe this is his big break. If you don't remember, Khamzat Chimaev was supposed to fight Leon Edwards before he had COVID. This was a fight that was supposed to happen before, but now we know a little bit more of how strong Khamzat's wrestling actually is. And a lot of people now are starting to be a lot more confident in his chances to out-wrestle Leon Edwards and make it look a lot more dominant than previously when they were put together. So Khamzat is ready. We know the UFC would love to put this fight together and keep it on that same card. And the great thing about keeping the fight on UFC 269 is Khamzat is not too far off from his training camp and his fight. He fought a week and a half ago. Leon Edwards is in his training camp currently. So if they keep the fight on that card, we will witness some of the best versions of each fighter. It's not going to be a lesser version of Khamzat or a lesser version of Leon Edwards. The only thing that's going to change is the preparation for a specific opponent, like game planning and stuff like that. Leon was going to fight a striker in Jorge, who most likely was not going to be able to take him to the ground. Transitioning that to stylistically one of the heavier wrestlers of the welterweight division is a big change. And honestly, that wouldn't be too much of a change for Khamzat because he fought a striker in Li Jingliang. He's going to fight another striker, Leon Edwards, if this fight does get put together. But there are options for Leon. It's not like he has to take a fight right now. He did us a favor before when he took the Bilal Muhammad fight, and then he fought Nate Diaz, and at that point, he deserved a title shot. With Colby Covington currently out of the picture for losing to Usman twice, Colby's of course going to have to rack up more wins in order to get that title shot again. In my opinion, Leon is the front runner for a title shot, so he doesn't even need to take another fight. He doesn't need to take a short replacement fighter because Kamaru Usman is open. And that is exactly who Leon is putting his sights on. He is now calling the fight Kamaru Usman. Now, it is still early. What's highly probable is that the UFC is going to throw Khamzat's name at Leon Edwards, and they're going to see how he responds. If Leon does not take a fight, it's most likely that he turned down the Khamzat fight. And I don't blame him, to be honest. I do not blame him for turning down anybody at this point, because he does deserve that title shot. It's a big opportunity for him to face the champion, but it's not what the UFC wants. The UFC does not care for Leon to beat Kamaru Usman and become the champ. They want Khamzat Chimaev, someone like that, to fight the champion. So they're for sure going to do all they can to make Leon fight Khamzat. But ultimately, Leon has the final say in this. And it's great to see a fighter have that level of power. And I will say, if Leon does take the Khamzat fight, my respect for him goes up exponentially. Like, he didn't even need to do that. And if he goes out there and beats Khamzat, there's no denying the man anymore. They'll also go the other way around. If Leon does take the Khamzat fight and loses the Khamzat, there's no more denying Khamzat Chimaev. But here's the thing, man. Khamzat doesn't need to fight Leon Edwards, right? He just beat the number 11 opponent. He could fight someone else. He could fight a Neil Magny, which seems like the next best step up in competition. He could fight Vicente Luque or a Gilbert Burns if he wants another top contender. Or he can wait out and fight Jorge Masvidal if Jorge's not too injured. That would be a massive money fight. So there's a lot of opportunities for Khamzat Chimaev, but there is a momentum factor that Khamzat comes in the UFC with. Whenever he comes off a win, people are automatically expecting him to take another fight on short notice. So if the UFC can carry that same trend, that same Khamzat trend and momentum, it will build Khamzat's name even bigger than ever before, instead of just keeping him out for a while and waiting to get an opponent for a full training camp. It's not the same kind of momentum. But ultimately, if they do fight each other, I think it actually would be a pretty competitive fight. Leon Edwards' takedown defense has gotten a lot better over the years, and he's just as big as Khamzat Chimaev. So far of what we've seen, he seems to have far superior striking. Now, Khamzat has developed the striking a lot, but we haven't really seen much of it lately. He had that one high feint against Li Jingliang, which was some high fight IQ stuff, but we really haven't seen him strike for a long period of time. So there still is a bit of an enigma around Khamzat's skills, even though he beat the number 11 contender with no problems. But man, it is really hard to see Leon stop that wrestling. Now, there are some issues with Leon Edwards when takedowns get shot at him. Number one, Leon will sit back a bit and allow the opponent to dictate the pace of the fight. he just kind of adapts to whatever you fight at. That could be detrimental if he fights Khamzat, because allowing Khamzat to control the pace is also going to allow him to pick off takedowns at different angles. Also, oftentimes you'll see Leon back up into the cage. That is another great opportunity for Khamzat to shoot it to the cage and take it down from there. You never want to really be backing up against guys like Khamzat and Khabib and Islam Makhachev. It's the worst idea to back up away from those fighters, and Leon naturally does this in fights. He did it against RDA, he did it against Nate Diaz, against Bilal Muhammad, all different kind of styles, but he's still backed up in those fights no matter what their styles are. That means instinctively, this is just how Leon fights, and that could ultimately put him in a very bad position in the cage. The other thing is, Leon can oftentimes be very easy to create contact with takedowns. When opponents shooting on Leon, they often are able to create contact on him, and he fights off after the shot. Him being on the cage so often allows him to use the cage in order to stop the initial takedown, but the second, third, and fourth that come afterward are a little bit different. Kamaru Usman was able to show this back in the day when he fought Leon Edwards. Now, Kamaru Usman is great at this style, but Khamzat Chimaev brings a different level at chain wrestling. For an example, look at Leon's fight with Rafa dos Anjos. RDA was able to shoot on him pretty easily at times and just push him into the cage, but RDA is not the kind of wrestler who has the same kind of skills to trip out the opponent, to switch the angle, to switch the grip, and all that stuff. RDA is a lot more of a one-dimensional wrestler in MMA, and that's what made it easier for Leon to stop the takedowns. From there, Leon was able to pull RDA up into the clinch, and that's where his end goal is. He wants to fight in the clinch if it is in close range. Now, against Kamaru Usman, he wasn't able to do the same thing. He was able to stop the initial shot. Usman always created contact just like everybody does against Leon. From there though, Usman was good enough there to switch the angle and get Leon to the ground. Now this was a long time ago, but I believe Khamzat Chimaev, who's possibly even at a better level than Kamaru Usman in this aspect, will make it look a lot easier than even Kamaru Usman made it look. The other thing is, the fact that Leon Edwards wants to pull the opponent into the clinch where he can land elbows and stuff, and he's very strong there, he's long, he has great wrist control, that won't even matter much if he fights Khamzat. If you clinch up with Khamzat, you're asking to get taken to the ground. The chain wrestling from Khamzat potentially can do Leon Edwards in. So right now, early, if this fight does get put together, I do think Khamzat would beat Leon Edwards. I don't think it would be that easy for Khamzat. I think Leon would put up a lot of resistance. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is extremely underrated. He's also hard to control on the ground at times. But I ultimately do think that Khamzat should win the fight through a 3-round decision. As a fan, I would still love to see Leon Edwards stay on UFC 269 and fight someone like Khamzat Chimaev. But in all fairness, Leon Edwards can do whatever he wants at the moment, and we really can't say much against him because the guy deserves a title shot. I mean, Colby only got it because of the rivalry and he could build the fight, and he had a close fight with Usman. In terms of who deserved it, who has the win streak and all that, I know that Leon didn't beat top contenders, but man, his streak has to be credited, and most other fighters have already fought Usman for the belt. I believe Vicente Luque still needs like another win or two, and then you could possibly throw him up there, but right now, Leon Edwards definitely deserves a title shot. And Usman has also acknowledged Leon Edwards as a guy that he could potentially face very, very soon. So interesting news here, man. I'm going to keep my eyes glued on what happens next. I really want to know what happens with Leon and if Khamzat is actually going to step in there, or they're eventually just going to call that title fight for Usman and Leon Edwards.